Kotaku's finest, Jason, the corporate shill Schreier, has been very active in defending his precious Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Ubisoft's inclusion of bullshit microtransactions in the game. In a meltdown on Twitter, our friend Jason Schreier went into full-fledged corporate shill mode, justifying the inclusion of microtransactions that directly affect the gameplay experience of a single-player game. In what sounded like a straight-up statement from Ubisoft, Jason Schreier went down the list of every single excuse in the book for why Ubisoft including these microtransactions is completely justified, and even went as far as to attack YouTubers, including myself, who dared to comment on this bullshit practice. In fact, if you search Assassin's Creed Odyssey microtransactions on YouTube, which I did in an incognito mode to give me the best results, my video is the first search result on YouTube, followed by Jim Sterling. So it's almost certain that Jason was indirectly calling out both of us. Now, I know I shouldn't really expect much from a site like Kotaku, or any games journalism site for that matter, especially these days, given how precious their advertising money and publisher relations are to these dying outlets in maintaining the little bit of relevance they have left.
I think that the reason that you don't see a lot of it is because it's very tough to make money doing journalism.
That's true.
And there isn't a lot of money going around at news organizations.
But to go out of your way to attack YouTubers who speak out against blatant anti-consumer practices by a publisher is a new low. It just shows you where their loyalties lie. In response to Jason's shillery, I simply quoted his tweet saying Kotaku's finest, but I guess that was too much for little Jason to handle, because not even 30 seconds later, I was blocked by Jason. I know, what a loss right there. I would hate to be the type of person, though, who is so paranoid that you have to check Twitter multiple times every single minute and block anyone who says anything mean about you online. I mean, come on, that's some serious vigilance on his part, though. Fortunately, though, I had the insight to screenshot his chain of tweets regarding the topic, just in case he did in fact fall into a soy-induced rage and decided to block me. So let's take a look at Jason's tweets and examine his oh-so-compelling argument in favor of microtransactions in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Here's my take. I spent 25 hours with Assassin's Creed Odyssey so far, and 1, it's phenomenal. 2, I've never once noticed or thought about XP booster or microtransactions. That probably wouldn't make for much of a YouTube video, though. It's sad how YouTube facilitates this culture where people toss around words like exploitative and predatory without really thinking about what they mean. Assassin's Creed Odyssey's microtransactions are at worst annoying. They're not a cancer on the video game industry. So like I said, not only is our pal Jason defending the microtransactions in the game, he also deemed it worthy to attempt to question the motives of YouTubers like myself in our coverage of what can only be described as pay-to-win, or better, pay-to-progress microtransactions in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a game that I was actually very interested in after hearing the overwhelmingly positive reviews initially from people like Jason in the game's media. Well, I guess that was my mistake. It was only upon further investigation into the game that I found out what was going on. Ubisoft obviously designed this game with this particular monetization option in mind. In fact, in the comments section of my video talking about this very issue, I have seen countless comments basically saying that the game starts off not really that grindy, you're able to progress the story fairly quickly, but once you hit about the last third or so of the game, that's when you almost hit this literal progression wall, and you have to go out of your way in order to grind, in order to progress through the story. This is a comment from someone on that video that I found just really kind of summed up the entire general sentiment surrounding Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love the game. It's the best AC till now, but the more you progress, I'm currently level 17, the more the grind is hitting you. I play it on easy, and if your equipment or level is just 1 or 2 too low, It's extremely hard, even impossible to kill the enemies. Love the choices and love the romance options, but this begins to be really disgusting. They destroyed my favorite game of the year to sell you XP boosts. I got a boost for my Ubisoft points that last 2 hours. Now without it, I earn 50% of the XP. The game is amazing, but I can't recommend the game just for the greed of Ubisoft. This seems to be the overwhelming sentiment that even I acknowledged in my original video, that the game for the most part is a great experience, but Ubisoft themselves tarnished it with their greedy microtransaction implementation. Now, the other important thing to note here is that Jason himself admits that he has only put in 25 hours into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and given the track record of games journalists' gaming skills that we have seen with games like Doom or Cuphead, who even knows what point in the game he has made it to regarding the main story. Obviously, it's a little premature to write off the microtransactions entirely when you haven't even reached the segment of the game where their purchase is all the more enticing to those ready to finish the story and not have to grind out side quest after side quest. From a gameplay level, Ubisoft has made this game grindy in order to sell these time-saver microtransactions. Yes, they even had the audacity to name them time savers. That is exploitation, especially when you expect your consumers to pay anywhere from $60 to $120 for the full experience that Assassin's Creed Odyssey provides. So in response to Jason's damage control, a user by the name of Sean Melrose responded saying, "If they're not noticeable, then why have them at all? It's a shame because the game looks great, but I don't want to support the gradual creeping of marketplaces into games. A fucking men," to which Jason responded, "I mean, the alternative is games costing $70 or $80. Budgets have gone up exponentially while prices have remained static. Something's gotta give." I absolutely hate this response because it's exactly what you would expect to hear from a corporate shill. Jason is literally defending Ubisoft's financial earnings as a company instead of siding with gamers who don't want pay-to-win mechanics in a single-player experience that basically punishes those who don't want to shell out the extra money to purchase in-game boosters. It's of no concern to me whatsoever the financial situation of Ubisoft and their inability to manage their multi-billion-dollar annual revenue properly. The only thing that matters to me as a consumer is the fact that I am getting a great game for the money that I am giving them. This notion that single-player games can't be successful without microtransactions is simply absurd. In case you haven't forgotten, in addition to selling the base game, Ubisoft is selling a $40 season pass and over 5 special or collector's editions of the game as well. Games like God of War, Spider-Man, and The Witcher 3, which you directly compare Odyssey to later, had no microtransactions but did have paid DLC, and they did exceedingly well. If you make a quality game, people will support it, as we have seen time and time again. But you failed to answer the question of why did they include it if it's not necessary. So, you're dodging that question, obviously. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on. So someone by the name of Vivek responded to Jason saying, "This game does have a whole smorgasbord of additions that go up to like $100, with collector stuff being more than double that though. Not to mention brand tie-in. The shareholders are definitely gonna get their ROI, lol." And then Jason responded with yet another excuse. "Yup, but I find it hard to get mad at Ubisoft for all that ridiculousness when they made an enormous, incredible RPG that's on par with The Witcher 3 in scope and quality. This ain't NBA 2K19. On par with The Witcher 3. On par with The Witcher 3. As you can see by the user scores on Metacritic, it's not even a competition over which game is more highly regarded by gamers, the people who actually pay for the game. Even on Steam, The Witcher 3 has a 97% overwhelmingly positive rating, while Assassin's Creed Odyssey has a 75% mostly positive rating. Okay, but let's just say the two games are on par with each other for the sake of this argument, okay? Can we agree on that? What does it say about Ubisoft when you compare the two games and their monetization options? The Witcher 3 launched with all content available to everyone instead of locking content behind premium editions or pre-order bonuses. The Witcher 3 offered a season pass but made it a point to expressly tell people to wait and see before purchasing the season pass if they had any sort of doubt. The Witcher 3 did not try to make people pay for time-saver microtransactions. In fact, they included an option to streamline the gameplay experience in the form of a difficulty setting appropriately titled Just the Story for those who wanted to experience the world of The Witcher 3 without the grind. This is what Ubisoft should have done as well, but instead they took the greedy approach and implemented every monetization scheme imaginable with the exception of loot boxes to tempt people to spend even more money. Also, keep in mind that CD Projekt Red is an indie developer that self-publishes their own games. Ubisoft is a multi-billion-dollar corporation and every resource imaginable at their disposal. So Vivek responded to Jason's bullshit excuse saying, "Oh, for sure, I'm very grateful this isn't like 2K19, but CD Projekt Red is a publicly traded company too, and was able to make the Witcher games without having to rely on microtransaction stuff, and they're probably going to do the same with Cyberpunk. Wouldn't it be nice if Ubisoft could do the same?" To which Jason, of course, responded with yet another excuse. Sure, but there are a lot of complicated factors here. Oh, of course there are. CD Projekt Red relies heavily on crunch, and the cost of living in Poland is significantly lower than it is in many of the cities in which Ubisoft has offices. Why is it any concern to me, the gamer, if Ubisoft is not capable of properly managing their financial situation? And then you bring up this garbage about having to rely on crunch and low cost of living in Poland. Is this really how far we're reaching now to defend microtransactions? I mean, holy shit, man, this is downright pathetic. If anything, this is just another demonstration of why we should support developers like CD Projekt Red instead of Ubisoft. They work their asses off to create amazing games with a smaller budget and staff, and at the same time, don't try to screw over their customers. You are only proving me and everyone else's point who disagrees with you. Okay, so that does it for this thread of responses. I want to go over one more quick thread before we wrap this whole thing up. So someone by the name of Gabe Gerwin responded to Jason's initial tweet saying, "I've heard they only really become more enticing near the very end," to which Jason responded saying, "Well, I imagine they become more enticing if you're a reviewer who has to beat a 70-hour story in 10 days, and you don't have the luxury of taking your time to explore and do side quests." To which someone by the name of JRPG Spectral responded, "Zing!" And then Jason responded saying, "It's not a zing. I've been there too. Reviewing long games can be a real struggle and can skew your opinion in both good and bad ways." Honestly, guys, let's be serious here for a second. My heart goes out to all of those who are forced to play and review video games for a living. You truly make the ultimate sacrifice for us all. I mean, press F to pay respect. I mean, guys, the hardships of having to play 7 hours of video games a day while at the same time being paid for it just must be unbearable. But sorry, like, this only just proves the point you are arguing against. Not everyone has time or the desire to dump 70 hours plus into an experience that is purposely drawn out by required side activities and a grindy progression system implemented solely to make you want to buy time-saver microtransactions. The Witcher 3 understood this, and instead of forcing you to buy microtransactions, they gave you the Just the Story difficulty option for that exact reason, free of charge. Ubisoft is basically forcing you to pay for the privilege to just play the single-player story and skip the side quest. It is beyond dishonest to say that Ubisoft did not purposefully design the microtransactions and game in this particular way. Why not just add a difficulty setting where you earn XP faster and enemies are much easier to allow you to just go through the main storyline? Why would Ubisoft care if you don't want to do the side quests? I mean, you already gave them the money for the game. The reason is nothing other than greed. Ubisoft obviously wants to milk as much money as they can from their customers as possible. You are defending pay-to-win mechanics in a single-player experience, and then even resort to attack YouTubers in general who dare to speak out against this bullshit, which is rightfully dubbed the cancer of the gaming industry, because just like cancer, it starts out as something small and turns into something disastrous. Jason's shilling does nothing but encourages this type of garbage to continue to be implemented into games, and if you haven't noticed, microtransactions are becoming more and more prevalent in every single Ubisoft game that has released lately. So just to wrap this up, I want to show you a clip of Jason's thoughts on YouTubers, which I think explains his vendetta against those making his career more and more irrelevant by the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe if you are new. Check the description for my links to Twitter and Discord, and I will catch you guys next time. Enjoy the clip.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm not. I would say that no, gaming sites don't really dismay me. I think some stuff on YouTube gets me dismayed because I think that the way that some YouTubers kind of try to position their audiences against sites like Kotaku gets me dismayed, and how YouTubers just I don't want to generalize, but there's some YouTubers who see themselves as the opposition force to the press, and they see it as being in their best interest to be so independent and like the, I don't know, alternative voice to the traditional gaming press, where they just want to shit on sites like Kotaku all the time, often for unjustified reasons.